Rian walked alone under the cold sky of the mining moon. The stars above were bright and silent. The ground beneath his boots was dry and cracked, filled with dust and strange stones. This outpost was quiet, forgotten by most of the galaxy. Only a few workers remained to manage the old mining machines. Rian was a quiet man. He worked the night shift alone, fixing broken tools and checking power levels. He liked the silence. He liked the dark. There was no war here, no noise. No people asking questions. Just work and stars. One night, during his regular check, he saw something unusual in the sky. A bright flash moved across the clouds, fast and silent. It was not a shooting star. It was something else. It fell behind the mountains near the edge of the mining zone. Then came a soft rumble and a distant flash. Something had crashed. He looked around. No one else had seen it. The other workers were asleep. The radio was silent. He waited, but no alert came from the base. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe just a broken satellite. Still, Rian could not stop thinking about it. After 10 minutes, he took a rover and left the mining site. He told no one. He drove through the dust, moving fast toward the crash zone. The desert was wide and empty. Wind blew fine sand over the rocks. His rover's lights lit the dark ground as he climbed a small ridge. Then he saw it, a pod, black, scorched, and half buried in the sand. Smoke rose from it. Strange marks covered the metal. This was not human. Rian stopped the rover and stepped out carefully. He moved slowly toward the pod. The door was open, broken from inside. The inside was dark, but something moved. A figure stepped out. Tall, armored, silent. Rian froze. His heart beat fast. The figure stood still, holding something long in one hand. A weapon, maybe. It looked at him through a helmet with a dark visor. He raised his hands to show he had no weapon. The figure took a step forward. Then it stumbled. The armor sparked near the shoulder. Rian saw a dark stain near the side. The figure was hurt. Without thinking, Rian stepped closer. He pulled off his old mining jacket and opened the rover's storage box. Inside was a rolled-up blanket, used for emergencies. He held it out, slowly. The figure stared at it, then at him. It said nothing. Then it took the blanket and sat on a rock. Rian watched for a moment, unsure what to do next. He could not leave it here. The nights were cold, and it was injured. He opened the rover's door and pointed to the back seat. "You can come with me," he said softly. The figure stood slowly, then climbed into the back. It kept the weapon close, but made no move to threaten him. Rian drove back in silence. The small shelter near the edge of the mining zone was used for old tools and spare parts. No one came here anymore. Rian brought the stranger inside and turned on the heater. He gave water and a medkit, then backed away. The figure sat on the floor, silent, wrapped in the blanket. Hours passed. Rian worked nearby, pretending to fix a broken scanner. He kept watching her from the corner of his eye. She didn't sleep, but she didn't move much either. He noticed now that the armor had soft curves, and the way she moved felt light and graceful. It was a woman under that suit, though her kind was clearly not human. He didn't ask questions. He didn't need to know. She was hurt. She was alone, and she hadn't attacked him. That was enough. At one point, he brought her a simple heat pack for her wound. She looked at it, then at him. Her eyes behind the visor glowed slightly, but not in a threatening way. She took the heat pack and nodded once. That was their first moment of trust. Late at night, Rian sat near the heater, watching the wind outside. The shelter creaked under the weight of the cold. He thought about reporting this to Commander Brell, but something inside told him not to. This woman wasn't here to attack. She didn't even ask for help. She just accepted what little kindness he gave. When he looked back toward her corner, he was surprised. The armor lay beside her on the ground. She now sat quietly, wrapped only in the blanket, her skin a soft silver gray, her hair short and dark like night. Her eyes met his. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. She came closer, not with fear, not with pride, but with quiet understanding. She sat beside him, the blanket over her shoulders. For a long time, neither of them said anything. The stars outside kept shining, but inside, everything was still. Rian gave her no demands. No questions. Just peace. And for the first time, the silence between two different lives felt warm. The next morning, the sky above the mining moon turned pale orange. A thin layer of dust moved with the cold wind. The sun was weak, casting long shadows on the ground. Rian stepped outside the shelter to check the rover. He needed to clear the tracks from last night. If someone from the base saw them, they might ask questions. He worked slowly, brushing the tire marks with a flat metal panel. As he did this, he kept thinking about her, the alien woman. She had not spoken more than a few quiet words, but her presence filled the small shelter. She had sat beside him through the night, silent and calm, wrapped in the blanket like a traveler. Lost in a strange world. When he returned inside, she was awake. Her armor still lay near the wall. She wore simple gray clothing under it, smooth and fitted. Nothing like human uniforms. She was drinking from a water pouch he had left. Her eyes followed him as he moved, but she didn't look afraid. Rian placed two ration packs on the middle table and pointed to one. "This one is for you," he said softly. She looked at the small box, then picked it up and turned it in her hands. She didn't open it, just studied it with interest. Rian opened his own, pulled out a protein strip, and took a small bite. After watching him for a moment, she copied him. She chewed slowly. Her face showed no clear expression, but she didn't stop. Rian smiled a little. "Not great, but it keeps you alive," he said. She tilted her head slightly, then nodded once. It was still quiet between them. But something had changed. A small bridge was forming, not with words, but with simple acts of trust. Rian spent the day pretending to work on a broken scanner near the shelter. He didn't want to return to base yet. He told himself the machine needed testing in the field, and no one questioned him. The base rarely checked on him. That gave him more time. Back inside, the woman began to move around more. She examined the heater, the old shelves, and the cracked screen on the wall. She picked up a metal pipe and turned it in her hands, then placed it back exactly where it was. She moved with grace, like a soldier trained in silence. In the afternoon, she finally spoke again. "Name?" she asked. Rian looked up from the workbench. "Rian," he said, pointing to himself. She touched her chest gently. "Mira." He nodded. "Mira. That's a nice name." She said nothing else, but she sat down nearby. She was watching him. Now, not as a threat, but as someone trying to understand. Rian didn't ask about her mission. He didn't ask where she came from or why she crashed. He knew she would speak when she was ready. She had removed her armor. That meant something. By evening, a soft alert buzzed on Rian's wrist screen. It was a base-wide notice. A patrol drone had detected a small energy spike north of the mining zone. Commander Brell had sent a team to investigate. Rian read the message twice. His stomach felt heavy. The crash site. They were getting close. Rian shut off the screen and looked at Mira. She sat near the heater, quiet, watching the small flames. He walked over and sat beside her. "They'll find the pod soon," he said. "You can't stay here long." Mira didn't move. She stared at the fire, her eyes deep and unreadable. Rian pulled the blanket around her shoulders. She didn't stop him. "You're not like the others," he said. "I don't know why, but I believe you." Mira turned to him. Her voice was calm. "I ran," she said. "Not from war. From them." Rian waited. She continued slowly. "They wanted me to kill. I refused. They call me broken." "Who are they?" Rian asked. She looked down. "Commanders, leaders. No peace, only orders." Rian didn't know what to say. He looked at her hands. One had a thin scar across the palm. "You were a soldier," he said. "I was a protector," she answered. "Until they made me something else." The room fell quiet again. Outside, the wind howled softly. Inside, the heater crackled. Rian stood and walked to a locker. He opened it and pulled out a small silver case. Inside were tools and a few spare parts. He handed Mira a piece of cloth and some cleaning oil. You can use this for your armor," he said. She looked at it, then gave a small nod. She took the items and began wiping the dirt and ash from her chest plate. That night, they didn't speak much. Mira lay down in the corner with her armor stacked neatly beside her. Rian stayed awake for a while, thinking. He thought about the message from the base. If they searched long enough, they would find traces of the pod. If they found Mira, she would be captured. Maybe worse. And if they found out he was hiding her, they would remove him from the outpost or send him back to Earth. He didn't want that. He didn't belong there anymore. For the first time in years, Rian felt something strange, a sense of purpose. Not from orders, not from machines, from a single act of kindness. A blanket, a seat beside the fire. He looked over at Mira. She was already watching him. "Thank you," she said softly. Then she closed her eyes. The next morning, the sun rose again over the cold rocks and wide desert. But something had changed inside them. Small shelter, two strangers sat in silence. One human, one alien, both broken in their own ways. Both finding something new in the quiet between them. Not war, not fear, just a moment of peace. The shelter stayed quiet for the next 2 days. Outside, the wind blew soft waves of dust over the rocks. Inside, Rian and Mira shared short words, quiet meals, and silent looks. They did not need to talk much. They understood each other. Rian kept working on broken tools as an excuse to stay out of the main base. He sent reports saying he was fixing power issues in the outer shelters. No one questioned him. His job was not important to most. That gave him time. That gave Mira safety. But he knew it would not last. He saw it in the way Mira checked the windows more often. The way her eyes followed every distant sound. The way she kept her armor close, even when resting. She had not run without reason. That evening, as the sun dropped low, Mira sat near the old metal table. Her hands held a small round object. Smooth and black, it looked like a stone at first. But then soft blue lines began to glow along its surface. Rian watched her from across the room. "What is that?" he asked gently. Mira looked at him for a moment, then placed the object on the table. She touched its center, and a soft light rose from it. A picture appeared in the air. Not clear, like a screen, but made of light, shapes, movements. Mira's voice spoke, calm and slow. "This is a memory core," she said. "It holds truth." The light showed a large ship, silver and sharp, flying through space. Then another ship, smaller, being chased. Then flashes of light. Then Mira, standing in a dark hall, facing tall armored figures. "They wanted me to destroy a colony," she said. I refused. The lights changed. Mira stood alone, hands raised. Her voice was calm. The others pointed weapons at her. Then she turned and ran. Rian watched in silence. He could feel her fear, even through the images. "I escaped," she said. "They sent hunters after me." She looked at him now. "I did not fall by accident. They shot me down." Rian felt a cold weight in his chest. He had guessed something like this. But hearing it from her made it real. "They will come," she said. "Not to find me. To end me." Rian nodded slowly. "You're not safe here," he said. Mira turned off the memory core. The light faded. The shelter returned to shadow and quiet. "I know," she whispered. At the base, things were starting to move. Torn, the youngest mechanic, had begun asking questions. He had noticed Rian's rover tracks 2 days ago, leading out to the desert. He had seen the energy spike alert on his own screen. He had even checked the fuel logs and found that someone had used more power than usual. Torn was smart. He didn't tell the commander yet, but he kept his eyes open. He saw Rian return each night with dust on his boots and silence in his eyes. Torn started to wonder, what had Rian found out there? Back in the shelter, Rian sat on a crate, thinking. He turned toward Mira. "You can't run forever," he said. "I know," she answered. "There's a station to systems away," Rian said. "Old diplomatic center. Hardly used now, but they still have a working link to the Central Council." Mira looked at him. "If we send your memory core there," he said, They might hear your side. They might protect you. She didn't reply at once. She picked up her armor and started cleaning the plates again. Then she spoke. You would help me, yes, Rian said without thinking. She looked up. Her eyes were deep, calm, and searching. Why? She asked. Rian did not have a clear answer, but he spoke anyway. You're not here to hurt anyone. You were kind when you had no reason to be. And maybe I'm tired of pretending nothing matters. Mira said nothing, but her hands stopped moving. She lowered her armor. Thank you, she said softly. Later that night, as they ate a quiet meal, Rian showed her a small map screen. There's a transport shuttle in the locked hangar, he said. I've worked on it before. It still runs. If we can reach it, we can leave the moon and head for that station. Mira studied the map carefully. What about your people? She asked. They won't care until we're gone, Rian said. And I'm not important to them, she nodded. And what about the boy? Rian blinked. Torn? He watches, Mira said. He knows something. Rian sighed. He had hoped to avoid this. I'll talk to him, he said. Maybe. He'll help. Mira raised an eyebrow. You trust easily. Rian smiled slightly. No, just enough. The next morning, Rian found Torn near the main power room. The boy was wiping oil from his hands. I need to talk, Rian said. Torn looked up. About the tracks? Or the missing tools? Or the damaged rover you said was fine? Rian took a slow breath. Not here, he said. They walked to the edge of the mining zone. Near an old wall, Rian told him everything. Not every detail, but enough. Torn didn't speak for a long time. He looked out at the desert. Then at Rian. You're hiding an alien fugitive, he said. She's not a threat, Rian said. She's in danger. Torn crossed his arms. Why should I help? Because you're better than the ones who want to hunt her, Rian said. Because you've got a brain and a heart, and I'm hoping both are working today, Torn sighed. After a moment, he nodded. I'll help, he said. But if this goes wrong, I'm not taking the blame. Rian smiled. Fair enough. Back at the shelter, Mira waited quietly. She had placed the memory core into a small case. Her armor was clean and ready. Her eyes were calm, but alert. Rian entered and gave a small nod. Torn's with us. Mira picked up her helmet. Then we moved soon. Outside, the wind was picking up. The sky turned gray with dust. In the far distance, small ships began to scan the land, slow and steady. Time was running out. But inside that small shelter, 3 lives had come together, different, uncertain, but connected by something stronger than orders. They had a chance, and they were ready to take it. The mining moon stayed quiet, but the silence was not peaceful anymore. In the distance, drones flew low across the rocky land. Their lights blinked red, scanning every hill and shadow. The search had begun. Rian stood near the old shelter door, watching the sky. The ships were still far, but each hour brought them closer. He checked his wrist screen again. The patrols were now covering the area near the crash zone. Soon they would search the outer shelters. Inside, Mira tightened the last strap on her armor. The silver plates fit closely against her skin. Her movements were calm and sure. She picked up the small black case with the memory core and placed it in a pouch at her side. Torn entered the shelter with a pack on his shoulder. His face looked tense. They're planning to sweep this whole zone tomorrow, he said. They already found broken metal near the pod. Mira gave a small nod. Then we moved tonight. Rian looked at the map one last time. The shuttle is stored in Hangar B7, he said. It's locked, but I still have the code. I've used it for repairs before. Torn sat on a crate. What about the guards? I know when the change happens, Rian said. We have 10 minutes between patrols. Mira looked at both of them. Once we leave, you cannot return. Are you ready for that? Torn hesitated. His hands moved nervously. I didn't ask for this, he said. But if I walk away now, I'll never forget it, so I'm in. Rian gave him a small nod. Good. We go after sunset. Night came slowly. The orange light faded from the sky, and the stars began to appear. The air turned cold, and the wind grew quiet. The three of them moved through the shadows. Mira led the way, her steps light and silent. Rian followed, holding a small scanner that tracked patrol movements. Torn stayed close behind, carrying a small toolkit. They avoided the main paths. They crossed old tunnels, dry storage lots, and broken fences. Rian knew every corner of this place. He had worked here too long. They reached the edge of the base where Hangar B7 stood. The doors were tall and gray, with warning signs painted across them. Two old lights blinked above the entrance. Rian moved to the control panel and entered them. Code. The lock beeped softly, and the doors opened just enough for them to slip inside. The shuttle sat in the center, covered with dust. It was small, built for cargo and repairs, but it had strong engines. Rian had kept it working over the years, just in case. Torn ran to the control station and started checking systems. Fuel is low, but enough, he said. Engines are cold. It'll take a minute to wake them. Mira climbed into the shuttle and placed her case near the pilot's seat. She touched the metal walls like she was checking for safety. Rian stepped inside and closed the hangar doors behind them. Suddenly, an alarm flashed on the screen. Motion near the gate, Torn said. Someone's coming. Rian's heart jumped. We have to lift now. I'm trying, Torn said. Outside, footsteps could be heard. A voice shouted a command. Let's flash near the windows. Mira looked at Rian. Ready? Rian nodded. Let's go. Torn pushed the final switch. The engines began to hum. Lights inside the shuttle turned green, but the outer hangar doors locked again. Override from security, Torn said. They're blocking the launch. Rian ran to the panel and opened the side cover. He pulled out a wire and twisted it with another. Try now, he said. Torn hit the control again. This time, the hangar doors shook and began to open. Mira sat in the pilot's seat. Get in. Rian and Torn climbed inside. The shuttle lifted off slowly, its engines pushing through the dust. Outside, the guards ran forward, but they were too late. The shuttle rose above the base and turned toward the sky. A message came through the radio. Unauthorized flight. Identify at once. Mira switched off the signal. They flew high above the rocky land. Below, red lights followed them, but they were fast. The stars opened before them. Hours passed in space. The mining moon became a small gray dot behind them. Rian sat near the back, looking out the window. Mira sat quietly in the pilot's seat. She did not speak much during the flight. Her eyes stayed focused, her hands calm. Torn rested near the engine panel. He looked tired, but not afraid. Rian moved beside Mira. How long to the station? 7 hours, she said. Do they know we're coming? They will see the signal. Rian nodded. He looked at the small case near her seat. That memory core. It's the only proof you have. It is enough, she said. If they listen. What if they don't? Mira looked at him. Then I will keep running. But not alone this time. Rian smiled a little. Not alone. Later, as the shuttle moved through a quiet part of space, they passed through a strange field. The lights flickered, and the engine slowed for a moment. What is that? Torn asked. A silent zone, Mira said. Old battlefield, still filled with ghost signals. Rian checked the systems. Engines are stable, but we should pass through fast. The lights dimmed again. Mira leaned back in her seat, eyes closed. Her hand trembled slightly. Rian noticed. Are you all right? This place brings memories, she said. She wrapped the blanket round her shoulders, the same one Rian had given her days ago. The edges were worn, but warm. Rian sat beside her. You're not that person anymore, he said. She looked at him. No, she said. I'm something else now. They sat there for a while, wrapped in silence. The stars outside blinked slowly, and the ship moved forward again. For a moment, it felt like peace. They were not safe yet, but they had made it this far. 3 strangers, running from war, chasing a small hope. And somewhere out there, someone might still listen. The silent zone faded behind them. Stars lit up again across the wide space. The shuttle moved through the darkness like a small bird escaping a storm. Mira sat at the controls, her hands steady. She didn't speak much, but her eyes stayed fixed on the stars ahead. Rian watched her quietly. He could tell she was thinking about many things. Her people, the chase, the truth she carried in that small black case. Torn sat behind them, checking the systems. He had opened a side panel and was looking at the wiring. "We're running low on power," he said. "I shut off the back lights and slowed the heaters." Rian nodded. "Will it last until the station?" Torn made a face. "Maybe, if we don't take any damage." Mira looked at the small map screen. "There's one place we can stop. A supply station near the edge of the belt. No guards, no patrols, just machines and old cargo." "Can we trust it?" Rian asked. "It's not about trust," Mira said. "It's about fuel." They reached the supply station 4 hours later. It floated in the dark, built into a hollow rock. Old blinking lights showed it still worked. Rian guided the shuttle toward the docking point. The metal doors opened slowly. Inside, everything was quiet. No voices, no alarms, just the sound of machines working in the distance. They stepped out of the shuttle one by one. Rian and Torn carried power cables and small tools. Mira walked beside them. The black case locked to her belt. The station was empty. Only old repair bots moved between walls and crates. They found a fuel line and connected it to the shuttle. Torn began charging the ship while Rian looked for spare food and water. Mira stayed near the docking bay. She stood still, her eyes scanning every shadow. She didn't remove her armor dot after some time. Rian came back with a small metal box in his hands. Inside were a few dry ration packs and a water bottle. "It's not much," he said, "but enough to keep us going." Mira gave a short nod. "Thank you." Rian looked at her. "You're used to being alone." He said, "Yes," she replied. "I was trained that way. But you don't want that anymore." Rian said. Mira was quiet for a moment. Then she looked at him. "No," she said, "not anymore." Just as they finished refueling, a sharp sound came through the docking. Base speakers, a signal. Not strong, just a single pulse. Mira's eyes narrowed. "That's not from the station," she said. Torn checked the panel. "It's coming from a scout ship. They're looking for someone." Rian stepped forward. "Do they know we're here?" "Not yet," Mira said. "But they will soon." "We need to leave," Torn said. Mira turned back toward the shuttle. "Start the engines." They moved quickly. Torn ran to the pilot's seat and began warming the ship. Rian closed the fuel lines and sealed the bay doors. Mira stood at the edge of the docking bay, watching the far end. A faint sound echoed through the air. A second pulse, then a third. "They're close," she said. As they prepared to lift off, the signal turned into a voice, cold, mechanical. "A known vessel. Identified now." Torn looked at Rian. "Should I answer?" "No," Rian said. "Just go." The shuttle engines roared back to life. The ship lifted and turned toward open space. Behind them, the scout ship appeared. Small, fast, armed. "They saw us," Torn said. Mira took the controls. "Hold tight." The scout ship fired a pulse round. It missed, but the shockwave rocked the shuttle. Rian grabbed a handle to keep his balance. "Shields holding," Torn said. But not for long. Mira moved fast through the narrow space lanes. She flew between rocks and broken cargo pieces. The scout ship followed, but slower through the tight turns. "They're not as skilled," Rian said. "No," Mira agreed. "But they will call for backup." Torn looked at the map. "There's a shortcut. A tunnel path through a gas cloud. Old mining route." "Show me," Mira said. Torn sent the path to her screen. Mira turned the shuttle sharply. They entered the tunnel route. Gas clouds swirled around them, green and blue. The ship shook, but held steady. The scout ship didn't follow. "They're turning back," Torn said. "They lost us." Rian let out a slow breath. "That was close." Mira kept her eyes on the screen. "We don't have much time. More will come." Hours passed. The stars stretched again across the window. Rian sat beside Mira. She looked tired, but focused. "We'll reach the station by sunrise," she said. "Will they help you?" Rian asked. "They must." Mira said, "If they listen." Rian looked At the memory core, it was small, so small to hold something so important. Why does this matter so much? He asked. Mira placed a hand on the case. This is not just about me, she said. It shows others like me were also pushed to fight. Some wanted peace, but they were silenced. She looked at him. If this truth reaches the council, it might change how they see my people. It might stop the war. Rian nodded. Then we'll get it there. Mira's voice was quiet. Thank you. Later, as the others rested, Rian stood near the back of the shuttle. He stared out the small window. He thought about Earth, about the quiet minds, about the nights he spent alone before all this began. He never expected his life to change, but now he was helping someone who had no reason to trust him. And somehow, that made everything feel more real. He heard footsteps. Mira stood behind him, still wrapped in the blanket. You should sleep, she said. Rian smiled. You too. They sat together near the wall, close enough to feel each other's warmth. Do you think they'll listen? He asked. Mira closed her eyes for a moment. I don't know, she said, but we must try. And together, in the quiet of deep space, they waited for sunrise, for hope, for a chance to be heard. The shuttle moved slowly through the dark emptiness of space. Outside the small window, stars shone cold and distant. Inside, the air was quiet except for the soft hum of the engines. Rian sat beside Mira, who wrapped herself tightly in the old blanket he had given her long ago. The warm fabric seemed to hold a small piece of warmth against the cold silence. The journey to the diplomatic station was nearly over, but the hardest part still lay ahead. The shuttle was about to enter a place known as the Silent Zone. It was an old battlefield far from any stars, where long ago ships had fought and fallen. The area was dangerous. Strange signals and energy fields made electronics fail. Many ships avoided it. Mira stared at the control panel, her hand steady on the controls. We must pass through the Silent Zone, she said softly. There is no other way. Rian nodded. He trusted her. He knew the stories of this place, told by old miners and travelers. But now, those stories felt real. Torn checked the scanner next to him. Systems are starting to fail, he said. We're losing power in some circuits. Keep watching, Mira said. If we lose the main engines here, we will drift forever. The stars outside dimmed as the shuttle entered the strange field. The lights flickered and sometimes disappeared. The small ship shuddered like a leaf in the wind. Rian reached out and touched Mira's arm. Are you okay? She looked at him. Her eyes were tired but calm. This place brings memories, she said. Not all of them good. What kind? Rian asked quietly. She did not answer at once. Then she spoke slowly. I was part of a war. I fought many battles. I lost many friends. This zone was where we fought the hardest fight. Rian listened carefully. He wanted to understand. But he did not want to push. Mira wrapped the blanket tight around herself. It feels like the ghosts of that war still live here. The shuttle shook again. The lights flickered more violently. Torn, Mira said, do you see the power levels? Dropping fast, he answered. We need to keep moving. Rian stood and looked out the window. The stars outside seemed to warp and bend. It was as if space itself was strange here. Can you keep control? He asked Mira. She nodded. I must. If we fail here, all hope is lost. For a long time, the shuttle moved through the silence. No words were spoken, only the sound of the engines and the occasional beep of failing systems. At one point, the shuttle's lights went out completely. The small ship drifted in complete darkness for a few seconds. Rian held his breath. Then, with a soft hum, the backup power kicked in. Lights returned. Mira kept her hands firm on the controls. We made it, she said quietly. Rian smiled. That was close. Torn wiped sweat from his forehead. Never want to do that again. As the shuttle left the silent zone behind, the stars returned to their normal shine. The cold and strange energy faded away. Mira looked out the window and then back at the control panel. She took a deep breath. This place reminds me of what I left behind, she said softly, but also of what I hope to find. Rian sat down beside her. What do you hope for? Peace, she answered. For my people and for all who suffer, Ryun smiled. Maybe we can help with that. Mira looked at him with gentle eyes. You have already helped me. The blanket moved slightly as she shifted closer to him. The small warmth between them was a quiet promise of trust. As the shuttle approached the diplomatic station, a small bright light appeared ahead. It was a beacon, blinking steadily in the dark. Ryun and Torn worked quickly to prepare the ship for landing. Mira monitored the communications channel. We must send the memory core before the command ships arrive, she said. Ryun checked the navigation panel. The station looks old, but active. Torn nodded. We will have a few minutes to broadcast the data. The shuttle landed smoothly on the metal platform. The airlock hissed open, and the three stepped out into the cold station. The station was small but clean. It had walls lined with blinking lights and screens. A quiet hum filled the air. Mira opened the case and carefully placed the memory core into the main communication console. The device fit perfectly into a small slot. Ryun watched as she activated the transmitter. A soft blue light spread across the room. The memory core began to send its message. Minutes passed. The screen showed streams of data flowing out into space. Suddenly, the communication console beeped. A voice came through the speakers, calm, formal. We have received your message, it said. Please identify yourself and your intentions. Mira stepped forward. I'm Mira. I carry proof of injustice against my people. I ask for peace and understanding. The voice responded. Your message will be reviewed by the council. We will send a response. Mira looked at Ryun and Torn. It is done. Ryun smiled. That was brave. Mira nodded. Now we wait. As they waited, a soft alarm suddenly rang through the station. Red lights flashed. Ryun looked at Mira. What is it? The command ships have arrived, she said. They know where we are. Torn checked the screen. There are 3 ships, armed, preparing to dock. Ryun's heart beat faster. We need to hide. Mira moved quickly. She led them to a small maintenance tunnel behind the main hall. It was narrow and dark. They crawled through the tight space until they reached a small room. It was dusty and forgotten. They closed the door quietly and waited outside. Heavy footsteps echoed through the station halls. Voices spoke loudly in a strange language. The command ships had brought soldiers. Mira held the blanket close. They will search for me. Ryun took a deep breath. We will not let them find you. Torn nodded. We'll find a way out. For ours, they waited in silence. Then, a faint sound came through the wall, a soft tapping. Mira listened carefully. Someone is trying to contact us. Ryun moved to the wall. Who could it be? A small panel slid open, and a hand appeared. It was a thin woman in a simple uniform. She whispered, I'm Era. I want to help. Mira's eyes shone with hope. How? Era smiled softly. I'm part of the council. Some of us want peace too. Ryun looked at Mira. This changes everything. Mira nodded. We are not alone. In the dark room, with the blanket wrapped around them, 3 strangers prepared for what was next. The message was sent, the truth was out, and hope was no longer just a dream. The small room was dark, but filled with quiet hope. Mira, Ryun, and Torn listened as Era whispered plans through the small panel. Her calm voice was like a soft light in the heavy silence. We cannot stay here much longer, Era said. The soldiers will search every corner, but I can get you out. There's a hidden passage near the cargo hold. It leads to an old transport tunnel. From there, you can reach the outer docks. Mira nodded. We must trust you. Era smiled softly. Some in the council want peace as much as you do. I will help. Ryun looked at Mira. Are you ready? Mira looked down at the blanket wrapped around her shoulders. The simple gift that had started everything. She smiled faintly. Yes, she said. The 3 moved carefully through the maintenance tunnels. Era led the way, her steps light but certain. The hidden passage was narrow and dark, but it was their only chance. They could hear voices behind them. Soldiers searched the station loudly, their boots heavy on the metal floors. Ryun's heart beat fast. Every step felt like a risk. Finally, they reached the old transport tunnel. The air smelled cold and dusty. The walls were lined with pipes and cables, long forgotten. Era opened the heavy door and motioned for them to enter. Inside, a small shuttle waited, covered in dust but ready. Use this, Era said. It can take you beyond the station's control. Mira looked at the shuttle. Thank you. They climbed inside quickly. Torn checked the controls and brought the engines to life. The shuttle hummed softly. As they lifted from the station, the alarms began to blare loudly. Red lights flashed everywhere. Soldiers will try to stop you, Era warned. But once you leave the station, you will be safe. Mira took the pilot's seat. Her hands moved swiftly over the controls. The shuttle shot out into the dark space. Beyond, Rian and Torn watched the station grow smaller behind them. The alarms faded into silence. In the quiet of space, Mira finally spoke. Thank you, she said to Rian, for your kindness. For the blanket, for trust. Rian smiled. You saved me just as much. Torn laughed softly. I never thought I'd be part of a story like this. Mira looked out the window. This is only the beginning. They reached the council station. Near sunrise, the place was bright and alive, full of many kinds of people. Rian had never seen so many different faces. They were greeted by Aragan, who introduced them to the council members who had supported her. Mira presented the memory. Kor, the council watched the images and listened carefully. After hours of discussion, the leader of the council spoke. We have heard your truth, the leader said. We will work to end the conflict. Your courage has opened new paths. Mira felt relief and hope. She looked at Rian and Torn. Together, we will change the future. Days passed. News spread across the galaxy about the hidden war and the truth of Mira's people. More voices joined the call for peace. Rian and Torn helped with repairs on the council station. They found new purpose in their work. Mira trained to become a diplomat. She taught others about forgiveness and strength. The blanket, once a simple gift, became a symbol of hope. It reminded them all that kindness could change even the darkest nights. One evening, Rian and Mira stood on the observation deck, watching the stars. Do you think this peace will last? Rian asked. Mira smiled. It must, because we have each other now. Rian wrapped the blanket around both of them. The cold space felt warm between them. Together, they looked ahead to a new dawn. The story ended with the quiet truth that kindness, trust, and hope could unite even the most different souls. From a simple blanket to a new future, the journey had begun.